All right. Welcome to our modern author panel. Tonight is Monday, March 25th, 2024. I am your moderator, Mariana Montini. We have three authors joining us this evening who are going to share a bit about their experience with manuscripts and kind of share what that's looked like for them and what the experience overall has been and the way they've seen benefits, and maybe even share some challenges. And then we'll open up the floor and let everyone begin to ask questions. So please, if there's anything that is talked about that you would like to know more about or ask a question about, if you could just jot it down, there will be an open forum question and answer session at the end. So joining us tonight, our three authors that are going to be sharing with us are Anne-Marie Priest, Tatiana, please let me know if I mispronounce this, Machado Griffin.
You're close, it's Machado.
Machado, thank you so much.
No problem.
And I always have to do that as well, correct pronunciation. So I appreciate you letting me know. And Ardashir Mehran. First and foremost, why don't we real quick let you guys introduce yourselves and talk about what has brought you to be, authors sharing at this panel tonight. Anne-Marie, why don't you go first?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. First, I'll just tell you, I'm getting over a little cold, so my voice is a little raspy. Sorry. Anne-Marie Priest, I decided to take a hiatus from my career of 20 years about 3 years ago and write a book. So I heard about the Modern Authors Accelerator program and talked to Professor Koester and got really excited about it and jumped in with both feet last year. I published in November of 2023. I live in Parker, Colorado, and I'm really happy to be here. I'll share my book and links in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you. That was my next question. So I so appreciate you jumping in that. Thank you. Tatiana, why don't you go ahead and share next?
Thanks, Mariana. Very nice to meet you, Anne-Marie, and the group here. So my name is Tatiana Machado Griffin. I am a Brazilian American, and I think for me, the call to write a book has always been a big part of what I wanted to do since I was very young. I love to read, and so I think that a lot of writers are also big readers or can be big readers. And I decided to write the book when I was a part of a layoff at the end of 2022. And that was a big wake-up call as to the state of the workplace. And I was a leadership facilitator and coach at the time. I was doing this as a full-time employee. And I saw a lot of pain in the workplace. And I was seeing a lot of disconnection, a lot of disengagement. Obviously, as part of COVID-19 and people starting to work remote and not really knowing how to be a part of this universe and all the uncertainty of the time and the volatility of the market. And so I wanted to write a book about human connection and how we can find a way back to each other. And I did a lot of research on it. I was, doing a lot of leadership facilitation in it. And so a lot of the lessons that I learned during that period of time really fueled the book that I ended up writing, which is Let's Connect as Humans. I have a copy right here. It was published about 2 weeks ago, so that's exciting to have it actually out in the world now for people to buy outside of the pre-sale period. I think that's a little bit about me. I live in Chicago. I have a terrier mix, Holly. She's 11 years old, but behaves like a 4-year-old. And I also live with my partner, and Chicago is pretty cold today. So that's why I'm kind of bundled up.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Tatiana. And yes, I can agree that those winters are tough, but man, once spring hits, it's so beautiful. So we're really glad to have us tonight. Ardashir, would you like to go next?
Great. Yeah, thank you. So Ardashir Mehran, it's by heritage an Iranian name. I'm reaching out to you from San Francisco, and we just finished rain, so it's this is my office. It's all mud out there, so I need to change my shoes to go to the rest of the house. And so my book came out last May, and thanks to the manuscript, became Amazon bestseller. And it was weird. Went online on Thursday, Saturday morning, about 5 or 6, I was getting pinged. I was thinking, okay, there's a crisis. Somebody dead. Somebody needs money. So I wake up and picked up my phone. People said, did you know that you made it Amazon bestseller? I said, you're kidding me. It was weird. So I have a lot of screenshots sent it to my family. Of course, the first thing you learn, family members do not buy your book. Friends do. But so my book is about totally redesigning, rethinking about mental illness. It's about you are not depressed, you're unfinished. I'm a psychologist, graduate from Columbia, triple majors. I have so many credentials, it's embarrassing. But I'm a skeptical scientist. From get-go, I realized that we psychologists don't get mental illness. We're trying to heal the illness. You need to awaken the person. And illness, depression, and anxiety, especially, those are expressions. They're hard to heal. And they are not about broken brain, they are about broken hearts. And there are emotional dimensions they have caused by trauma, etc., that once you realize that and you share that with the client, healing can be very fast, sometimes no more than 5 sessions instead of months and years. And people not only are healed, they are awakened, and they do crazy things in their lives. They make more money, they have better relationships, they get better promotions. So my book is just telling people that you don't have to suffer. The answer has always been right there. Psychologists like me, we overcomplicate it and medicalize this. If going back to the person, you'll be okay.
Thank you so much, Ardashir. And I appreciate that all 3 of you have also already tossed your links into the chat. So thank you so much for that. Next, we're going to dive into some commonly asked questions, things that we hear authors pretty much on the regular, perhaps ask in one of their sprints, or things that I think anyone would want to know going into a process like that, and bringing an idea to life. So the next few questions are going to pretty much go out to all 3 of you. Whoever would like to go first, if we could have a brave soul, every question perhaps volunteer. But really, we just we're here to hear your stories. And once again, thank you so much for everything that you have shared and you're going to share. The first question is, what information do you wish you knew at the start of your marketing and pre-sale? Anyone brave?
I can go first. I wish that I would have known more about Canva and all of the mail programs and all of the things, because that was a hard learning curve for me, was just the creation of the content to put out there in the world. So that was a little steep, but YouTube is your best friend. So that was helpful. And also, I think I wish I would have been more confident right off the bat, because at first I thought, well, maybe I'll just fund the book myself and not do all that. And then Professor Koster said, you know what, don't do it for the money, just do it for the support and the community. And just put yourself out there. So I did, and it was amazing, because once you put yourself out there and say that you're doing this, then it really motivates you to finish doing it, 1. And 2, know that you really do have this great community around you. And so that was huge for me, and a really nice surprise. I ended up with I called them my super fans. And even someone called my husband and said, I saw your wife's post, and I'm a super fan. I should have been in her post. And I said, and he told, well, you got to buy her book. And so he did, and he became a super fan. But that was, and I'm still communicating through my website and letting them know when I, go to a book club or do an event or something. And so I'm still communicating with those people, and it's been really a great experience.
Wonderful. And I love that you already are touching on the power of mentioning someone on social media or mentioning someone on the book jacket. Super fans, that's definitely lingo that we are using. We still use in the program. So I like that you're already kind of showing the power of going out there, talking about the idea, and the mentioning, the bringing in of that community and including them on your journey and all of the content that you are sharing now, even after the book. So thank you so much. Tatiana, would you like to go next?
Sure. I plus one everything that Anne-Marie said, learning the systems beforehand, whether, it's Canva or Chipmunk or whatever you're going to use to communicate with people is super helpful to know in advance. I too learned as I went, and I wish I had known in advance. A couple of things that really helped me in the process was keeping a very long list of people I wanted to reach out to one-on-one, people I wanted to call, people I wanted to text, people I wanted to email, people I wanted to reach out on social media, and also just creating a certain cadence for myself of I reached out to them this Monday. They haven't bought the book yet. When you start getting the sales, I'll reach out again next Monday. And so I essentially created blocks on my calendar every day during the pre-sale period of either 60 minutes or 90 minutes to post, engage, thank people for buying the book on pre-sale. And then anyone that bought a book, I sent them an email first saying, thank you so much for buying the book. It really helps me. And then about a week later or a few days later, I would ask them, would you do me the favor of sharing the pre-sale with 3 people you know? Which I think we were calling 5-minute favors as part of the program when we were learning the marketing campaign. And I do think that boosted a lot of my sales too, because some people, I don't even know how they learned about the book, to be honest. I don't know them, but they bought a copy of the book because someone else they knew bought it. And so it is really helpful to tap into your network and your super fans to help expand the message beyond you. So these are some of the things stay organized, already create pre-blocks for yourself so you can be successful, because life gets busy. And if you don't have the post in advance, if you don't have the time in advance, it's really hard to prioritize because it kind of becomes a full-time job to engage with people during those 30 days if you're trying to hit your mark.
Oh, Tatiana, you are preaching. I love everything you said. Strategy, so important. It just makes that cadence more regular, which improves your ability to look forward and say, I need content for these days. Oh, let me block out on my calendar now to actually write some of the blog posts. But it also, I'm sure, helped your audience with that regular knowing, okay, well, this day a blog post is going to come out. And they knew that they could depend on a regular flow of content from you. So do you feel that really benefited your ability to build a community online?
It did. And I think one of the things that resonated a lot with the audience overall is the video that we make also as, preparation for our sales page and posting that video, but also putting quotes from the book that, were interesting or engaging and asking people what do you think of this? Do you agree? And trying to engage with content of the book, because I think there's no better way to sell your book than give people nuggets of what you're talking about and see how it resonates with them. And I think those were the posts with most engagement, were the ones with quotes, and Canva is great for quote creation too, with the imagery and all of that. And so that was really helpful. I did 2 weeks of it because I have 12 chapters in my book. I would post one thing from each chapter and kind of give a layout of what the chapter was about, just so people could have an idea of what the book is about, really. But again, just nuggets, right? Nothing too revealing, but just to get people excited about it. It's almost like
Yeah.
Easter eggs, since Easter is around the corner.
Well, and like I said, I love how strategic you were. You knew there were 12 chapters. You knew you could probably do a chapter a day. And once again, drop in nuggets. We're not giving away everything, but we're enticing. We're baiting that hook. So thank you so much for sharing that. Artist Chair, would you like to go next?
And yeah, thank you. So what I'm doing, I don't follow the crowd. I follow the energy and the heat. And in fact, around last July, I sought advice from a copywriter who used to work with Steve Jobs, and I live in Northern California, and about, how do you bring your message? And he said that he read my book. He said, your book is solid. He said that don't be afraid to be controversial. Have a point of view. You don't want to be obnoxious, but have a point of view that people start us as, whoa, what does it mean? What are you talking about? So in fact, I wrote a post that people loved it, and it was about that we've been lying to about mental illness. And I talk about how depression, we don't actually get it. So what I write is an invitation to you, to authors, that know your message, that for me is not about the book, it's about the creating a movement. Talking about where you want to take people. And my book is just a bit something to read, is my manifesto, but selling the book has never been my goal. It's about having a different health experience. Speak to that. And who am I talking to? And I tell people I'm talking to a version of me 20 years ago that I was looking for help and I couldn't find it. So as I start to do that, the next thing happen is important for you to consider. Your crowd will change. There are people who initially I send, these are my crowd, I send my communication and so on. Then other people start to respond to me, says, I saw your post, I saw your title, I was in a bookstore, and I saw you about Unfinished. Can we talk? So be ready for where your message actually land, which may not be your target audience. And that's perfectly fine. And what I write, and it took a while for me to write, and write rather regularly, there's a statement I use: hook, story, and offer. I always talk about what is it you're writing. And a hook I learned from our classes, that tell a story that people say, oh my gosh, this is weird, this is interesting, that I relate to that. So there's a way of writing that I learned, part of my communication. Always hook people. Talk to the pain that people have, then tell a story. A client of me and my wife, me and my golden retriever. She's in a lot of my stories. And here's what we do differently. And people follow you in your journey. But the biggest part was my crowd is literally changing. And in some way, I'm loving it. I'm thinking, okay, universe is boomeranging in a whole different way. Follow the crowd, with the people who call, hear your call. Those are my people.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love that you've talked about how this process, the creative process, not the pre-sale per se, but the creative process goes on long after the book is out there.
Forever.
You're discovering, new groups and audiences with whom the content resonates and is highly relevant. So in a way, the book is doing what any child that we birth into this world should. It's growing up and it's evolving and it's, connecting on different levels. So I'm really glad that you've talked about how this process, the creative process, really does extend beyond the actual pre-sale and the publication of the book. So thank you for sharing. Next question. I think the next one I would like to ask to follow up is, what pleasantly surprised you about the pre-sale process? Brave soul to go first, or would you like me to pick?
I can go first. We can go in a rotation. It's fine.
That's great. Thank you.
Again, back to what I said, that the community that you're building is that was the nicest surprise about it, and just that people were excited to hear my story. My book is a creative nonfiction. It's a memoir of a period of time in my life between my 23-year marriage ending and now, and kind of what I went through, and a lot of tragic online dating stories. So there's some humor in that, but and finding humor within yourself and things that you go through. But people really resonate with that. And even if you have had a successful marriage, you still resonate as a woman and as a man trying to get along with a woman of the things that you go through in your life. And so just people resonating with my story and really being interested and waiting for it to come out. And that was a really nice surprise.
Mhm, mhm.
That's great. And I love that you've touched upon the fact that even though we all experience different emotions and we all perceive and experience differently, human emotion, everyone on some level, in some capacity, has human emotion. And
Mhm.
I like that you're talking about building a community around kind of these shared universal experiences,
Mhm.
even if it's as simple as we all experience emotion. Let's connect and talk about how that affected me and how that affects you. So I love that you've touched on the fact that emotion is so powerful. Thank you. Tatiana, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think that as a first-time author, I was very uncomfortable, like selling myself in that way. I hadn't done that type of work before, like marketing and strategy and all of this. So there was definitely a certain level of discomfort during that period. And I think for me, what was most illuminating during that period was engaging in one-on-one conversations with people and talking about the process. The people that I called were people that I knew pretty closely, and people just saying, you're selling a product you believe in. Just know that there's worth in it and that people are going to enjoy it for what it is, right? And I think that was such a beautiful lesson for me, in just understanding that there's value in what we do and really believing the work that we're putting forth. And I think it gave me a lot of confidence during that period of time as well. And I would say the other thing that was really exciting during that period of time was just people that I hadn't talked to in a while reaching out to me. And I think similar to what Adarshi has shared, it's just like people who were in my network but not that close to me, reaching out and saying, wow, this is really great. I would really like to get a copy of your book and know more about it. Can we schedule a call to talk about this? And, people that I know pretty closely, not even getting back to me on a text. So it's kind of like wild how that happens, of people that you haven't talked to in so long reaching out to you, and people that are very close to you not being as interested. And so I think that that's also a very interesting part of the process and surprising. And I was able to reconnect with so many people during that period of time too, which was really, really nice to just have one-off calls with a bunch of people I hadn't talked to since college, or since I was a teacher back home in Brazil. And so that was really a lot of fun, and just that sense of reconnection during that period of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Artist Share, would you like to share next, please?
When I did my pre-sale, I recorded a 2 minutes video. It was painful. I had 60, 70 take, and I hated them all. I was so stiff. So what I did when I started to actually do my podcast, and I told people that I had a hard time speaking in the camera because as a kid, I was shamed. And so I turned that why was it hard for me to talk about something that I'm passionate about, and I'm an expert, but I couldn't say it? And part of that, and use that as a data for what I'm here, saying that my goal is for you to know what it's been uncomfortable as a top expert can feel uncomfortable, not because I was tongue-tied. There was a reason for that. And my goal is to help you not feel the way I felt. People wrote back, and these are senior people, said, I can so relate to that happened to me too. So as we do our work, there'll be a lot of crowdiness, messiness, things that, oh my gosh, I'm screwing up. That's data. Talk about, put it out there. That's how you crowd will find you. Number one. Number two, the people who contributed, there are strangers who bought 5 books. This is I'm buying this for my brother, for my grandmother, for my mother, for my teenage daughter. I didn't know those people. They across the country, but I made a commitment to myself that I will be committed to them. So I do twice a month, just a private letter to them. This is what I'm learning. You may want to know this. And just reach out to them, share with them the nuggets, because they helped me when I needed help. The truth is, and they surprised the heck out of me. What I learned as you do that, they tell others. Some of my best therapy clients and the referrals came from those people. Shower them and really take care of them, and you're going together on a journey.
I love that you're talking about, kind of the gardening analogy. We're planting these seeds,
Yes.
these nuggets, but if you water them and treat them appropriately, they can grow into so much more than you initially thought, right? Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. So biggest obstacle during the marketing pre-sale, or perhaps another step in the process, what would you feel if there was one thing that you were like, this is a challenge? It could be personal, it could be something, maybe a platform or an app that you were using. But what was that challenge, and what assisted you to overcome it? Andrea, go ahead. You can go first. It's okay. Thank you.
I think the biggest obstacle was myself, getting over myself, and imposter syndrome is a real thing. And even though I had been very successful in my career, writing this book and being really vulnerable and telling my story was terrifying, and that I was putting it out into the world, and I didn't know, how people were going to react to that. So getting over myself was really the biggest part, and not leaning into the program. And because I'll tell you, folks, they know what they're doing. They know how to help you write this book and sell this book and put this book out into the world. And you have to lean into that and do, on Sunday, I would create all my posts. I think Tatiana put in the chat that she also did that. And then it made it easier during the week to then just, put it out there. But really have confidence in yourself that this is, this is burning in your soul to do. So lead into it.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of I love that you said being vulnerable is terrifying, because it really is a vulnerability to put yourself out there in this capacity with no degree of guarantee of what's going to be on the other side of it. I love that you know the power of your words and the story that you want to tell. And yeah, absolutely. You guys are the SMEs that your story, but that's where your manuscripts pros are here to help you with the parts that perhaps you're not as well versed in. So I really, really appreciate that you shared how much that helped you overcome, some of those challenges. Tatiana, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think I shared a little bit of the struggle of selling myself already, but that's definitely one that was challenging. But now I feel much more comfortable with it, and I talk about the book with a lot of pride. And I think that I really did a 360 on what that has meant for me. So I think that for me, when I think of challenges, one of the things was thinking about how do you raise this amount of money in 30 days? That was something that was very scary to me. And one of the things that I decided for myself is I'm not going to pressure myself to get to this amount. I'm going to pressure myself to engage with people and see how many copies I can sell. But that can't be my goal. If my goal is just monetary, I lose the whole sense of why I'm doing this. It was never about making money for myself. It was about something else. And I wanted for that to be front and center. And so I also think it's important for us to reflect. during the pre-sale period, what is it that I want to accomplish during these 30 days? Is it engaging with my community? Is it making connections? Is it selling X number of books? Is it selling amount X of, copies? Whatever it is, define what that is for yourself and how you're going to define success. Because the reality is your idea of success will really drive that journey for you. And at the end of it, if your whole vision of success was achieving this amount of money, and if you don't do it, you may feel like you haven't reached it. And I think it's really important to define that for yourself so you can feel successful at the end of it, because there's a lot of growth that comes from advertising yourself, your image, your brand, what you believe in. And it's very vulnerable, like Anne-Marie said. And so to me, defining what success was from the beginning helped me stay the course and not give up, even when it got hard and there were no sales on certain days. Because that's another challenge, right? There are going to be peaks and valleys in your selling journey during those 30 days. The first few days, you see that ramp and you're like, yeah. And then like second week, you're like, what happened? Nobody's buying the book. And so just get ready for like the emotional roller coaster. And just know that if you define success for yourself in your own metrics and parameters, that at the end of it, you're going to feel more satisfied with what you achieve.
Well, I love that, because we're all going through the same program. We're all monetarily expected to hit the same goals, but that's not what brought us all here. Everyone is here for their own personal reason. And I love that you're talking about defining what success looks like for you outside of manuscript. Yes, I'm here to reach these metrics, these dollar amounts, these goals, but what's my why? Why am I here to begin with? What would I need to see to feel as though I've achieved what it is I came in here to do? And I love that very early on you were thinking about that and articulating that so well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Ardashir, would you like to go next?
Sure. Can I just add one thing? To piggyback onto what Tatiana said, when people don't buy, don't think it's because, they don't want to buy. You have to realize that people have all other things going on. And with algorithms, with social media, they don't see your stuff right away. And so keep posting, because a lot of it towards the end, I would follow up with people. Oh, I saw you liked my post, or I saw that you commented. Oh, I forgot to buy your book. I got to do that. And I would remind them, you got like midnight tomorrow, and so people want to support you, but they just get busy. So circle back with those folks, remind them, that's why you get that big spike at the end, because all of a sudden people realize, oh, now I really do have to do this. It's a deadline. They're deadline driven. So.
Oh, yeah. And everybody is like that. That's marketing call to actions. That's what we've built a whole industry off of, is giving these very specific, you need to do this by this date or else. Or so I think that you obviously learned a lot during your marketing sprint, because all three of you are talking in, very, very markety terms. Even, I know, Tatiana, you've said that it really felt uncomfortable for you to sell yourself. And that also, I think a lot of people come into this program thinking, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to push this agenda of buy. But I think a lot of times what I end up finding authors say towards the end is that I built such good rapport with my audience, and I got to know them so well, and they became such a part of my journey that it didn't even feel like selling. It felt like me simply saying, hey, do you want to know more? Go ahead, go buy this. Do you want to support me? Go buy this. Do you want to continue to be a part of my community? Go buy this. And it felt less salesy towards the end of the process than it did at the beginning. But oh my goodness, that is definitely a very common thing that we find people coming into this kind of fearing is, oh, I'm not a salesperson. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But then once they kind of build that rapport in that community, it feels more organic. So it feels a bit easier. Ardashir, go ahead. You can go next.
Couple things. I don't know if people have already designed their cover and the title. So when so my book is about depression. And as I was doing that, I went to a whole lot of different bookstores and I looked at depression covers. Covers of mental health books, they are usually light blue, light green, pastel, as a way to be soothing. And I thought about it, forget about it. Healing is about life, is about blood. And I'm going to create colors that people, it's almost like people says, what the heck is this book about? And also have, really, this is blood red. And my wife is a designer. And people, I went to local bookstore, they said people just come there and in the mental health, your book stands out. So part of that, being very strategic about your messaging and the color of your book, including the title, there's an element of gravitas that, who are you? And use that very judiciously and be bold and be frequently different, because you are different, and they don't follow the advice you get from anybody else. Not number one. Number two, as you go to the marketing, you get a lot of opinion, not a lot of good advice. So I thought when I finish, my book comes out and Oprah will call me and says, Artish, you come on the show. Heck no. I sold good books, but Oprah didn't call. So I start to pay attention to that. The world needs to know my name and my work, and I need the world to know that. So, and number three was, I want to build connections. So I start to put aside, and I didn't learn this early enough. So I post, LinkedIn is my primary channel. Initially, I was following the thumbs up, and I learned it's totally irrelevant. Don't write things that seems interesting and you get to say something raw and bold to get likes. Write something that is meaningful to the right audience with the right dose. The right person will hear you. And that right person at times, the senior executives tell a whole lot of other people. Write about things that you know matters to you, but is real. One of the key people that I trusted says, Artish, you need to write on Instagram and wake up one morning, don't shave, your hair messed up, and your post says, I'm feeling depressed and this is what I want to write about. I said, heck no, I'm not going to do that. That's not me. I don't want to see myself when I haven't shaved. So find your way of communication that is you. Because once you do that, people build a relationship with you. They know when you change. They know, hey, like I wear turtleneck or I wear bandana. People to the point they expect it. That's my uniform. So create a visual identity, even how you show up. And because they build a relationship with you, and then it takes time. And I know this literally, when I put a good post on LinkedIn, within 48 hours, I sell books. It goes, initially it was a lot, and now it goes a spike. So I'm thinking, okay, burden is on me. Keep doing it, dude. A good post that is meaningful to me, and then your sales go up. The last thing is the whole process of writing book was fantastic. It was top level expert advice. When it goes to marketing and we come out of the gate, blind leading blind, I was getting advice and I was thinking, I don't trust it. So it's almost having a group of people that give you good advice. That is hard to find. So I started to create a group of myself and other authors. We come together and say that, what did you do that actually worked? Don't give me recommendations. There's a lot of recommendations. What did you do? One or two things that worked. That's priceless. That in terms of things that actually make a difference, that instead of doing a lot of different things, what did you find to be useful?
Well, and I love, you guys actually touched on another question I was going to ask, which was, how did you become comfortable being an author and marketing and branding? And I think all three of you have also touched on that in your answers to this. Artish, you said something about kind of authenticity, right? Instead of going out there and kind of being this idea that of a persona. Yes, we do create author personas, but I think we do that more to articulate those concepts instead of, my author persona is, like you said, Artish, you're someone who wakes up with messy hair and is depressed. you knew that wasn't who you were as an author. You knew that wasn't who your book was written by or
Yeah.
for. And you stayed true to that because authenticity, people are so used to marketing, they can sniff out
Yeah, yeah.
inauthentic messages. They can sniff out inauthentic people.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, it's to remain true to yourself and to be authentic, even in these moments when it's tough and it's challenging and it doesn't feel completely natural or great all the time. You know, vulnerability you guys have talked about too. And I cannot thank you enough for being brave enough to go out there, all three of you, and complete something that I think the statistic is 81% of people have writing a book on their bucket list, but only 2% actually end up completing that. So yeah, we definitely value your bravery to be, you know, three of those brave troops that have gone out there and completed the program. And the fact that you guys are sharing the importance of the authenticity and the vulnerability.
One thing to build that, I think you said that, to be honest, I have not figured this out. I'm continuously work in progress. So don't look at me as an expert. That makes me very feel uncomfortable and it's unreal. Every 2-3 weeks, I do a pivot. So, that didn't work. Then my wife is my best, advisor or coach. Said her name is Jeannie. Says, I wrote this post and I hate it. And he says, okay, write another post. And this time, well, how would you change it? This is the game of iteration. And when something goes right, you know it. You know it. It feels right. And it there's no bolt of lightning. You do it, says, that doesn't feel good. I did it anyway. But okay, didn't work. I go have a beer, a cup of coffee, slip on it, and get up next day and try again. You keep cranking the wheel.
Well, yeah, marketing has, you know, there's always strategies that we're trying to share that, okay, well, this is the important stuff. This is what you should be focusing on. But at the end of the day, we're humans. A lot of times we may set out with a plan, but because ebbs and flows, things arise, we can't always execute it to the nth degree of what we had on our blueprint. And that's, once again, one of those universal feelings that everyone has experienced and everyone has gone through. So iterating yourself also, let's say post-publication, or when you notice you have new and different audiences, or when you know that, man, there's a type of content that's resonating better and it wasn't in my original blueprint, but I know people want more of it and it feels good to create. So I like that you're talking about how you never have to have all the answers, and it's okay to say, okay, I tried this, wasn't awesome, or I don't want to do this much anymore. And being able to continue that ebb and flow, that very universal human experience of being able to change our minds, being able to pivot and shift to accommodate life, right?
To your point, Mariana, one of the best sales days that I had during my pre-sale, I was talking about the book and sharing snippets and all the things, and my first grandson was born. And so I actually wrote, on LinkedIn, taking a break from telling you about the book, my first grandson was born, and I posted a picture of him. And I had the biggest spike in my pre-sale because I was sharing something personal. And so as people start to follow you and are, rooting for you, and supporting your book, it's not just the book, it's you. They've bought into what you're doing. So, share those personal moments as well.
Yeah, and they have so much power. And I love that all three of you are touching on that. We have about 10, 11 minutes left, and I have a couple more questions. I think the first thing I want to ask is, what was the favorite part of the entire book journey for you? Anne-Marie, would you like to go first?
So what was the question again? The best part?
What was your favorite part of the entire book journey? And that doesn't have to be just down to the manuscript.
The day it was done. No. The entire experience for me was really life-changing, honestly. I had journaled notes, throughout the last 15 years. And I kept telling people, someday when I write a book. And finally, a friend, called me on that, and she had heard about the program and told me, all right, write that book. And so the whole experience, learning something new, learning a lot of things new, was uncomfortable and awesome at 55 years old, just the relationships that I've formed. And recently now I have book club groups of women reading the book at their book club, and I'm getting invited to speak, and they want to take their picture with me, which is the weirdest, crazy experience ever. And signing books, and people, again, back to that, they've had similar experiences. And, when things go wrong in your life, you don't post that on social media. You don't tell people. You hide out in your bedroom eating ice cream. But I really put all of that out there. And so I think that it made me approachable to other women, and that's been an amazing just overall experience. But yeah, the whole thing for me was life-changing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love to hear that it's allowed you an opportunity to learn so much about yourself, and also to be able to come out of the other end really, really appreciating what it is you went through, not just like skill wise. I learned, to use this word instead of this word or this color scheme, but how it benefited your life all around. I think I love to hear that, because I think that you're artists essentially. You may have a pen instead of a brush, but not only are you putting this work out there, you're putting yourself out there. And I love to hear that it has been such a positive experience, and that you've been able to navigate those tough times and still come out the other end with such an outlook. I think that's really, really great for the other authors to hear. Tatiana, would you like to go next?
I think that there were many key moments. I'll share 3. The first one was advice I got from my editor. When I started the book, I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to write about, and it was human-centered leadership, because I know the impact managers have on people's lives. And then I made a whole table of contents, and I started doing research. And then I wrote about 2 chapters, and I was like, I'm done. I don't think this is what I want to write about. And it said, you're writing a book to a fiction audience that you're thinking about. It's not the book you want to write. What book do you want to write? And so that was a big key lesson that sticks with me. So that's lesson number 1. Write the book you want to write. Don't write the book you think people want to read. So that was a pretty revelatory moment for me. The second piece that I'll share is I did a lot of interviews with people. I interviewed 40 people for my book in 4 different countries. And that was a beautiful way to hear stories and hear people from all cultures and all different backgrounds kind of coming together in how hard it is to be human in our current society, and really trying to find the overlap themes of different people in different phases of their lives. And so that was a beautiful gift, being able to actually collect stories and honor those people's stories. And I would say that the third thing that was really a favorite for me was just learning to sell myself in a way that feels authentic to me. And that was probably the hardest lesson, one that I continue to learn and iterate in, as Ardashir has shared as well. There's never a perfect thing that you do. And so it's really about, what is this here to teach me, and what can I learn from it? And how can I use this to actually propel myself in a different direction? And so I really love all of those lessons, and I continue to reiterate and learn from it. And I am now an author, which is really exciting. I can put that, on my business card, and I am a published author. So that's a big deal.
It is. And congratulations again, Tatiana. I love that. Once again, you're really driving that point that some of the toughest challenges that you face in this process are the ones where you're staring yourself in the mirror and saying, like, how am I going to do this? How do I sell myself to people? How do I remain true to myself and yet still appeal to an audience? How do I balance that? But I like that you have been able to articulate that it is possible. It may not be the same formula for everyone, but that it is possible if you do the program, listen, and go in, once again, defining that success for yourself, and still always, yes, there are metrics, there are dollar signs, certain dollar amounts I have to hit, but this is what I really need to feel or experience or see. And that, yeah, staying true to yourself is very important through the process. So thank you for sharing that. Artist share.
Every now and then I talk to Eric Koster and I said, Eric, you were an angel that God wanted me to meet with you. I'm so grateful to you. And I know I make him feel uncomfortable because Eric is very straight, but I'm so grateful for manuscript and help me to come to this stage. And I tell people this book that I wrote, I'm just the delivery guy. This was supposed to be written. And manuscript helped me with that. Several epiphany for me was when the book came out last summer. There was a review showed in Amazon, and that person found me and wrote me, a female business leader in Midwest. She said that she was contemplating suicide and saw my book online, bought it, the electronic copy, over the weekend read it, ordered a hard copy, and changed her life. That's the time I knew that my book mattered. And then it's when my wife read the book, she said that, well done, I understand you. And when my sister read it and said that you told the story of our family, finally, you told that story. And the best part that it was very emotional for me was dedication. And I started with my childhood nanny, and all the people who touched my heart taught me all the way to Eric Koster and so on, that this is the work. Seems Artashi wrote it, but I was guided to write this through in my entire life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. We only have a couple more minutes, so I'm going to go to our questions. Thank you once again for everything that you've shared. It's been such a pleasure to get to sit here on what's a Monday night for me and hear stories like this. I think they're just so powerful and so amazing. Shashi had a couple of questions. I think the first, Tatiana, you were able to address in the comments, but real quick, how long did it take you to find how to talk about your book? And was there a moment that it kind of just all clicked into place? Or do you feel, I know we've talked a lot about iteration. Do you feel like that's maybe something that kind of always is shifting?
I think talking about the book wasn't really hard for me, except for the confidence, and that, the more you do it, the better you get. And I will tell you, go to Eric Koster's office hours on Tuesdays. Whenever you are doubting yourself and feeling like, I can't do this, go to his office hours, because I would do that every Tuesday. And then I would be so jazzed when I got off that call. I would sit and, do all this writing or marketing or whatever needed to be done that week or day. He's so motivational, and I can't stress enough how much that Tuesday afternoon pep talk, and even if he wasn't talking directly to me, he's talking to someone else, it always was a pep talk in my mind. And so that will help you find your inner courage. And I think that's super important to this program, to not forget that he's there always for us.
Yeah. Build on it. The way to think about it is less about talking a book, is about talking a feature of your book. And you always follow where's the energy. Can be chapter 1, can be why you wrote the book. You tell me about what fascinated you, what really worried you. Follow what makes you come alive. That's what you talk about. And it could change hour by hour, by person to person, by venue to venue. Whatever makes you come alive, you find your feet, talk about that. It's really what really resonates and could be any story.
No, I love that. Real quick, we are at 7:00 my time, Eastern Standard. Would you guys want to hang around just a couple more minutes? I think there's 1 or 2 more questions that I think are really important for the authors to hear. We're recording if anyone does have to go, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to be respectful of that. Could we maybe do 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Shashi had asked a question, and Tatiana, you had addressed this about batching content. And I think you had said that you batch content every Sunday for social media, which batching is when we kind of sit down and create a whole week or maybe a month or a campaign's worth of content and kind of just get it all done in one sit or in one day or in a few hours, and then kind of plot it accordingly on various platforms. I think I had heard one other of Anne-Marie, you might have said, or Ardashir, about also you batched content as well. You found it was really helpful to sit down, get it all done, and then push it out. That's something that I think from Marketing Sprint 1 we start talking about. So if you could just real quick touch on where you saw that improve the process for you. Was it more efficient? Was it just easier to kind of be creative in these batches when it came to social media content or emails? And talk a little bit about how you approached that. Was it a calendar? What were you using to facilitate that?
I don't batch. It doesn't work for me because the topic that I write is so I have a sense about people that follow me. I follow them. I follow about where people's energies are, what's the mood of the day, and I write it about what appeals to me and is hot, that energizes me, and I write about that. And to me, that's more important, that people, when they get any communication from me, says, Ardashir is connected, knows me, knows my issue. And that's how my brain works. I'm a good sensing, pulsing, and it changes. I tried to do batching. It didn't work for me. It felt very structured, and I lost my voice.
Okay.
I did do the batching, not so much in the beginning because I wanted to be like original and fresh, but during the pre-sale, it is like fast and furious. So I did on Sunday mornings, like Tatiana, sit down and like figure out the week. And it might not have been like the exact words, because a lot of times that would come to me at 2:00 in the morning. And that's when you need to write things down by your bedside, or in the car. I used Otter a lot because I'd be driving along and then think of the exact thing that I want to say. And so I used Otter. That was very helpful. But I did find, because you're trying to do the marketing, you're getting ready for revisions, you're doing all of these things. And so to at least use the sheets that they give you to kind of plot out at least some topics or chapters that you want to draw from, I think that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would say for me with the batching, a lot of the content was planned on Sundays, and what I focused on throughout the week was actually engaging with comments and responses and sending people private messages. And so what that did for me is just free up space to be able to do that. And also just recognizing that, like, with a full-time job and home responsibilities, like, you need to be strategic with the time you have allotted and with what feels authentic to you. And to me, just planning the posts in advance helped me get that out of the way so I could actually be in more engagement mode during the day. So that's what helped me be a little more successful in engaging with community, if you will. Because writing those posts did take me quite a bit of time in just how much thought you put into it, what exactly you want to say, etc.
Yes, and I think I appreciate that we do have kind of mixed approaches on this with the authors, because I think that yeah, there's no like recipe to success. There may be something that works for one that doesn't work for another, but maybe just as you said, Anne Marie, you reach a part of the process where there's just so many things kind of trying to grab your time or your attention, and just sitting down and being able to plot 3 to 5 simple posts that perhaps kind of hit on these key points. It's good to hear that was used and you found that it assisted you. We are at 7:05. I believe Tatiana has put her email in the chat. Ardashir, Anne Marie, I know you put information earlier. If there's any other additional information that you would like to add, any social media, at your handles. I know the authors would probably love to get eyes on the actual content that you guys have on your various channels. But I really, really, really just want to give you a giant thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. I know there was a lot we covered. There was probably even more than we didn't get a chance to touch on, because an hour is not very long when you're talking about this kind of passion project and drive and all of that. So Antoinette, I do see your question. If you'd like to real quick pose that. Anyone who needs to go, by all means, please do jump off. But I know I saw Antoinette's hand up earlier. But once again, authors, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much. This was such a beautiful, beautiful, chat. I've learned so much just within this hour. And I had an issue too with having to try to sell myself. And a friend of mine said, brush your hair a little. And I was like, well, sometimes I'm just in the flow, and to me it's more authentic. So like just even learning that it's okay to be that person too, as long as the message is what matters, right? So I've learned so much from each and every one of you. And I really thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Good luck.
Good luck, Antoinette.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again. We
Thanks,
did record
everyone.
this, so thank you. You guys have a lovely evening, and
too.
let's go out there and accomplish some really, really amazing things, because it sounds like we've got really just a bevy of beautiful ideas and talented folks here. So thank you.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Bye,
You guys have a
everyone.
lovely
Nice meeting you all.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.